Hello you guys and welcome back to a new video. In this video I'm going to show you how to make a heart-shaped container pot with a lid, and I think it will be quite cute and also quite easy to do. Since it's a heart shape, I'm not going to throw it because throwing, like everything you throw, is circular. So I thought, why not hand build a heart and then make a cute little lid. And what I thought would be fun is make a little rose that you can place on top of the lid as like the little handle of the lid. I thought that would be cute. So without any further ado, let's get started with making the heart-shaped pot. The first thing that I do is take a piece of paper and I'm going to fold this in half. I'm going to use this to make the heart shape because the lid and the bottom of the piece need to have the exact same shape, and because of that it's easy to use something as a mold or just something to trace so that it is the same size and the same shape. And when folding a paper, it's also perfectly symmetrical, which I quite like. So just like this, I'm going to cut out a heart, and that's going to be the shape of the pot. Now I'm also going to see how big I want to make it. I don't want to make it too big because I kind of want to be like a cute little pot for some jewelry or something. But I also don't want to make it too small. I think this looks cute. So let's get some clay and roll it out. In this video I'm going to use this slab roller again. I've used it in previous videos and it just works very easy to make a flat slab. So yeah, let's go. And then I take a piece of clay and I'm going to flatten this a bit so that it fits through the slab roller. So I just smack it and make it a little bit flatter on one side, and then I also do the same thing on the other side. Then I just place it on top of the shelf here, on top of a piece of fabric, and then I put another piece of fabric on top of it, because if you don't put it in between fabric it will get stuck in the slab roller, and yeah, we don't want that. And then I take this big shelf, which I like to use to cut the clay on so that I don't cut into the table. Just like that. And now I'm going to cut out the heart shape twice, once for the lid and once for the bottom. And I'm also going to cut out a rim that we can place on top of it to make it a pot. So what I do is just place the piece of paper on top of the clay, and I just put it as far to the side as possible so that I have a lot of clay left for the rim. And then I take this little knife, it is from Seam Tools, and what I'm going to do is just cut out this little heart. So I just trace the paper like this and carefully cut out the heart. And then I just cut out the heart again. Okay, so now I'm going to cut out the rim that I'm going to place on top of the heart, which is going to make it into a pot, if that makes sense. So if this is the heart, I think I wanted to make like 5 centimeters high, and then it also needs to go around the heart, if that makes sense. So what I like to do is just go with the ruler around the side to see how long it needs to be, and it needs to be about 14 or 15 centimeters. So just place the ruler on top of here, and then I take my little knife again and I'm just going to cut out a straight line, just like this. And then I take my ruler and I place it on top of it like this. So as you can see, this is 5 centimeters, and then I like to just make a little mark here, and then I just move the ruler upwards a little bit here, and then I also measure 5 centimeters, put a little dot here, and then I just put the ruler on top of the 2 dots, and then the clay should have the same whiteness everywhere. And then I also cut out the sides And then I just take away the clay. And I'm left with the pieces that I'm going to use. And I will also leave a piece that is flat like this that I'm going to use to make the rose, but for now I'll just put it aside. And now we're going to turn this flat heart into a cute little pot. And I take the rim that I cut out and I'm just going to place it on top of here. So place it on top of the rim and just fold it in the shape of the heart. So now I'm going to trace a little line from here, because here I have to end the cut and then I just go up a little bit. I didn't cut it in a straight line, so as you can see it's like a little bit crooked. And what you could do if this is enough clay, you can just turn it around and like flip it and then place it on top of here. But I already see that I unfortunately wouldn't have enough clay to close it all the way here, so I will have to take another piece of clay to make that. So I have another slab here and I cut it in the same angle as the previous one. So I'm just going to attach that here at the side and then I just place it on top of here. And I see that it is a little bit too long. As you can see here at the end, it is sticking out a little bit and it needs to fall into it. First make sure that it is perfectly aligned with the bottom. And then I'm just going to cut this so that it fits. And then it hopefully fits perfectly, and I think that looks really good. Okay, so now that I'm sure that everything will fit, I am going to take it apart again, because we of course have to attach everything. So I'll just take the walls off again. And I'm now going to attach them with some vinegar. So I got a little bowl here and I also got a brush to apply the vinegar. But then what I first do is scratch a little bit. So I use this scratching tool from Seam Tools and I just go over the rim here like this at the part where I'm going to attach it. I'm first going to attach the left side. So I'm going to start off with applying some vinegar on top of there. And later on I will do vinegar on top of the other side, because you don't want to leave the vinegar on too long without attaching it onto each other. Otherwise the vinegar dries and it doesn't really stick anymore. For those who don't know, I get a lot of questions about this, but vinegar changes the viscosity of the clay. And because of that the clay just gets very sticky, and that way it's easy to apply things onto each other. And that makes it very strong and it also prevents cracking. So I would definitely recommend trying out working with vinegar if you haven't done that yet. And then I put the side on top of it. Make sure that it is aligned with the bottom. And then I just put some pressure on top of it so that it gets stuck. But I think will be just fine. And then I'm going to attach the other side, but we also of course have to make sure that both of the sides are attached to each other. So what I will do now is also scratch the side of the other side so that the two sides also are attached together on those two spots. Okay, and here we attached it to the side here, so I'll just make a little line here where that will be attached. And then I'll apply the vinegar. And then I'll scratch it again, just a little bit, to make some extra texture. And then I'll take the other side and I place it on top of it and I press everything together. Also again, make sure that it is aligned with the bottom. Just press this onto each other like this, so it is nice and stuck and doesn't have any holes or anything. And I do the same thing with the bottom here. I'm now going to smooth everything out a little bit and make everything look a bit nicer and also make it a little bit stronger. And I'll start on the inside, so the creases where everything is attached to each other doesn't look so nice now. But what I like to do is go over it with the brush, because I think that makes quite a big difference. And also by doing this, it makes it all a little bit stronger and also prevents it from cracking. And I also go over the side here. I think that looks quite nice. You can also go over it with your fingers to just put a little bit of pressure on it and smooth it out. And the next thing that I'm going to smooth out is the rim here at the bottom. So you can start off with just going over it with your finger like this. and like attach the clay like that. But sometimes it's quite hard to do it with your finger because you can't really see what you're doing with your fingers. So sometimes I like to use this shaping tool, and then it's easier to put a little bit more pressure on it. And just like that, I attach the bottom onto the side and try to get rid of all of the creases and cracks and make it one piece. And that already looks a lot better, and I just do that all around the piece. And I do the same thing here at this rim. And to smooth the piece out even more, I'm going to use a wet sponge. So now I'm just going to smooth out the edges, because I just think it looks a lot nicer when you don't have any sharp edges. So just like this, I like to go over the rim and just smooth everything out on the inside and on the outside. This just makes everything look a lot nicer. I'm now going to take a look if the lid is going to fit, and if it doesn't fit, I may have to like reshape the sides a little bit. So as I can see, some of the sides are pointing a little bit outwards, and I easily just fix that by just pressing them inwards so that they match the shape of the lid. And then when it fits perfectly, what I do is take my heat gun and I'm going to dry it a little bit, so that's a little bit harder and it won't change its shape. And then I can also turn it around and smooth out the bottom, and then we'll also start working on the lid. Okay, now that the sides are a little bit harder and they won't change shape, I take off the lid and I'm going to work on the inside a little bit. When you turn it around, you can see that often the sides are quite sharp, because you haven't gone over those yet and it was kind of stuck to the table. With those I just again take a wet sponge and then go over them, and just like that you can smooth them out. And sometimes when it's maybe like sticking a little bit outwards, you can also grab a little knife and then you can just cut off some of the clay here to make it a little bit more circular, and then just go over to the sponge again so that you don't see that it was cut. And then it just looks a little bit nicer, and that just makes it nice and round and prevents any sharp edges. And just like that I go over the whole rim at the bottom. And then it's all nice and smooth and the pot is finished. To make the lid a little bit stronger and also to make sure that it keeps its shape and it stays flat, I'm also going to blow dry this a little bit. Okay, I'm going to smooth out the edges. So I just take my sponge with some water again and then I just go over it just like this, and I also smooth this out just like I did with the rim of the pot, and I do this on both sides. So as you can see, by just going over it a few times it already becomes quite smooth. And then the lid is nice and smooth, and I'm now going to work on the bottom of the lid, because I'm going to make a little standing rim here that's going to fall into the pot. This is the thickness of the clay, and on the inside of here we're going to attach the part that is sticking out and that will fall into the pot. So I just draw this on here, and then I'm going to scratch this, because we will be attaching a rim on top of here. I will actually take my scratching tool for this so that it goes a little bit faster. Sometimes when I do very detailed work I just scratch with a little knife or with a needle tool, but with this one it isn't that detailed and quite a big surface, so then it just goes a little bit quicker using this tool. And I'm actually just going to roll out like a string of clay and place that on top of here. do want it to be quite thin, so I'm rolling it out a little bit more. But you can make this as thick as you want. Okay, so I think this looks quite good. It is very long, but that's okay. I'm just going to take the part that I need, and probably it's going to be like the middle part because that is nice and thin. The outsides are a little bit thicker, but that's not really a problem because I probably won't be using it, so I will just use this part which is nice and thin. So then I take the heart shape again, and now I'm going to place this on top of here, and I'm going to see how much I actually need. So I'm just cutting that into 2 pieces. That way it's just easier to attach it nicely. So this is going to be here. And then I actually pinch this inwards quite a bit. And then I also cut this off here. And now I can actually flip this and use the same cutted part on the other side and attach this onto its shoulder. And then I use the rest of the piece of clay that I need, and then I'm also cutting it here so that it fits perfectly. And then I think it will look quite good. Now I'm honestly not entirely sure if the pot is going to fit into this. So what I like to do is, before attaching it, taking the pot and just place it on top of here to see if it actually falls into it. And that is not the case, which I kind of expected it, because it is sticking out a little bit more than the part that I scratched. So this just has to be a little bit more inwards, so just press it inwards. And maybe you cut it a little bit too long and you'll have to cut off some more clay. Here I do think I have to cut off a little bit of clay. Here where the 2 pieces come together, it's a little bit wider. So then I just cut off a little bit of clay there. And it isn't a problem if it isn't nice and detailed work yet, because we will smooth everything out later. Now the most important part is that the lid will actually fit, because otherwise, yeah, it's kind of a failure. So now it actually fits perfectly. Now that I'm thinking of it, maybe you shouldn't have scratched it yet and maybe just scratch it now. Yeah, sorry about that. So then I would just now trace it on the exact spot where you're going to attach it, so that when you take it off, you know where you're going to attach it. So I just go over all of the sides with a little knife, and I don't cut far into the clay, but just make a little scratch line so that I know where I'm going to attach it. And then I'm going to scratch it. It needs to be a little bit more inwards than I just scratched it. So yeah, it may be a better idea, like I just said, to just do that at once. I then again apply some vinegar to attach it. And then I place this part on top of it and make sure to attach it at the part that you just scratched and where you marked it, so not too far outwards. Then I put a little bit of pressure on top of it. And then I'm going to work on the other side. And then attach the next piece. And again, I put some pressure on it to make sure it gets stuck. And then before putting even more pressure on it, I will check again if it is in the right spot. And I do think it is. Yeah, it fits nicely. Like how that looks. So then I just take this off again, and now we'll be attaching it a little bit better. So what I'm now going to do is take the vinegar brush, and I'm going over all of the lines here at the side to smooth it out. And then I take my sponge again to also attach the 2 pieces onto its shoulder. So this little line here, you can get rid of that by going over it with sponge and putting on some pressure and making some circular movements. And that way it just looks like it is one part. And I also do it here at the bottom. And because I made it so thin, it cracked at some parts a little bit because the clay just got a little bit dry. So then I also like to just go over the whole rim here to just smooth it out and get rid of any small cracks. And then the lid is almost finished, but the only thing that I would like to do is add a little handle to the top. You don't have to do that, but I think it looks quite cute to add it. I thought it would be cute to make a little rose Okay, remember that piece of slab that I kept apart to make the rose? That is this part. You can also, of course, just roll out a new piece of clay, and I'm going to turn this into a little rose. I think 2 years back with Valentine's Day I also made a tutorial on how to make roses, so if you want to know exactly how I do this, please check out that video. I've come up with my own design and my own way of making roses, which I think is quite an easy way to make them and also a fast way. So I would definitely check out that video, but you can also kind of see it in this video. But that video I show different variations on how to make roses, and yeah, I just explain it in a little bit more detail in that video. I think here right in the middle will look cute, like cute little rose here in the middle. So then I mark this spot again where I'm going to attach this handle. And then I press the rose on top of the lid. Also, you can take a look at how you would like to place it. I have 3 leaves on the outside that are sticking out a little bit, and I just put those in the shape of the heart as well. But that doesn't really make a big difference, but something to think about. And then I smooth out the edges here with the brush again. Then the heart-shaped pot is finished so far, and I'll just let it dry like this, and then I'll put it in the kiln for a biscuit fire, and then I will start glazing it. The jar just came out of the kiln and I think it looks really cute. Nothing weird happened, it didn't crack or anything, so I'm happy with that. And I really like how it looks. Also really glad with how this little rose on top of it turned out. So now it is time to glaze it. And I've decided to glaze the rose with this color Weeping Plum from Emco Saladons. And I'm going to glaze the whole jar with the color Mulberry. So like a darker purple, and then the rose is going to be like a little bit of a lighter red. And I think that will look really cute together. And just like this, I apply 2 more coats all over the piece, and I let the glaze dry in between coats. I'm going to glaze the lid separate from the jar so that I can actually glaze the rim of the jar. And I am going to be putting this into the kiln like this. So the only part that I can't glaze is this little rim. And because I just think it looks nice, I'm just not going to glaze the entire rim, but you can glaze the bottom.